There are no organizations that I know of that have a blanket budget. So you have to be able to
Wouldn't that be
really,
nice?
exactly. So you have to really be able to kind of tailor in. So I feel like for me, it's always understanding what you're protecting and then going at it from a proactive standpoint first.
Welcome to Speed Data, quick conversations with cybersecurity leaders. I'm your host, Megan Garza. I'm pleased to welcome Corey Reed to Speed Data today. Corey is the Senior Manager of Information Security for HD Supply, a leading national distributor of maintenance, repair, and operations products. Thank you for coming on the show, Corey.
Thank you, Megan, for having me. I'm very excited.
In his role, Corey is responsible for ensuring the protection of data and systems against threats while maintaining organization-wide compliance. He specializes in governance, risk, and compliance, data security, forensics, and vulnerability management. The Morehouse Scholar and Science Symposium winner has achieved dozens of professional certifications and licenses, including CISSP, CompTIA Security Plus, and the Certificate of Global Leadership from Beijing University. Corey also has a master's degree from Georgia Tech. When he's not promoting a security-conscious culture at HD Supply, Corey serves as a member of the Financial Committee for Enrichment Services, a nonprofit dedicated to helping families thrive through quality education, services, and partnerships. Corey, you wrote an article titled Embracing GRC as a Strategic Advantage in Cybersecurity. Can you give our listeners a summary of why governance, risk, and compliance are such an advantage in the field of cybersecurity?
I do want to preface this that these are my personal thoughts, and I'm not speaking on behalf of HD Supply. The whole general concept of GRC is often overlooked. I tell people it's kind of like the drapes of a home. Nobody really cares about them until you realize that without drapes, your house can't be heated or it will overheat based on sunlight coming into your home.
Yeah.
So the same thing happens from a compliance and governance and risk standpoint. People don't really think about it until something is on the line. You know, you're about to fail a compliance or regulatory audit, or you have a scenario where you have, insight that is needed in order to understand your risk for your environment. That's when it becomes really important. Cognitive GRC is not only showing that there's advancement happening within the GRC space, but we're looking at the utilization of machine learning and AI to assist in those capabilities as well, whether that is gathering evidence, whether that is analyzing that evidence, or is it even creating AI agents that allow us to grow in that space without having to add additional headcount. So governance, risk, and compliance touches everything.
Yeah.
There's not one area of the business that does not require some oversight, some compliance regulation, or the ability to analyze risk to make sure that the decisions that are being made from a low level as well as a strategic level of your leadership, that those decisions are being made appropriately and accounting for the amount of risk in the organization.
Sure. Yeah. And it touches everything, like you said.
Correct.
And GRC is certainly a common acronym in security. But what do you think is the most important acronym? And I know that there are several in our field today.
Yeah. So again, always partial to GRC because again, that's kind of my passion. But I feel like the most important one, if you think about it from, kind of when you got into the game of cybersecurity, when you first started thinking about it, is got to be CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And the main reason that is because it's literally the foundation of all security principles. It's what we teach in school. It's what we expect even the newest person coming to cybersecurity to know. Like if you've taken a security plus or any entry level cybersecurity cert, they talk about the CIA triad. And again, it's really important just because of those fundamentals. So when you're talking about confidentiality, everything focuses on data. The whole purpose of securing anything is data.
Yeah.
Data is financial, data is private, data is something that is valuable. So it's something you want to be able to keep your hands around. Of course, integrity, making sure that whatever that data is correct. It would do no good if you put information into financial system and then somebody was able to just come in and change it and now it's no longer accurate.
Right.
Changing somebody's account from $1 million to $1 will probably not be great for the individual who lost everything.
No.
And then, of course, availability, making sure that it's only available to those individuals that have the rights to access it. And again, if you think about it from your own personal information, how many times have you gotten a letter from a company that goes, oh, we've accidentally exposed your data. Here's 1 year free of protection on your data and for your credit accounts, things like that. That doesn't give you any solace. You're like, great. Like, thank you for putting my information out there yet again. So you want to make sure that you're doing right by people's data that entrusted to you. So again, the CIA triad is definitely that acronym that's most important,
Yeah.
at least in my opinion.
What is the best way to defend against a cyber attack?
To me, I'm more of a proactive person. Again, everybody, of course, has their detective controls. And thank you for all those managers who manage security operations. We love you very much. Thank you for all that you do. But I feel like the best thing that you can do is, again, understand the risk of your organization, understand where your crown jewels are, understand what are the most sensitive systems in regards to data capture, what are the most important systems for you to run business operations, and then define your controls specifically around those. But how do you do that? You have to do risk assessments. You have to analyze your environment. We're here to help the business move forward, make them grow, make sure that they are generating revenue, because most times, security is a cost center. Again, we do our best to be, a revenue generating or at least a revenue saving center. But at the same time, we do cost a fair amount. So we want to make sure that we are defining what's in the organization clearly, so that way we can protect what's necessary, because there are no organizations that I know of that have a blanket budget. So you have to be able to
Wouldn't that be
really,
nice?
exactly. So you have to really be able to kind of tailor in. So I feel like for me, it's always understanding what you're protecting and then going at it from a proactive standpoint first.
Right. Because not all data is created equally. And so you
Correct.
don't want to spend all this energy and money protecting something like a public business street address
Mhm.
when you need to be allocating those funds to someone's social security number.
Correct. And even if you look at it from a lot of businesses that have PII or PCI information, say if you have PCI information, but you only do $1 million worth of transactions per year, but you do $6-7 billion in account-based payments. So would you really focus heavily on the PCI? Of course, you're going to secure and protect it,
Right.
but you're not going to invest in, $100 million worth
Right.
of equipment to protect that small
Protect
amount
1
of
million.
revenue.
Yeah. And what do you foresee as the biggest threat or risk to cybersecurity on the horizon?
The humanistic aspect is always the hardest to protect. You have individuals who are receiving business email compromises or phishing campaigns or, whaling instances all the time. Education only does so much there. So we do our best to educate through security awareness programs and the like. But AI is really making it difficult, because these entities that are targeting all these different nations based on the particular discipline, if it's finance or anything else. And when they're doing these attacks, they would always make mistakes. So there could be language barrier mistakes. There could be mistakes based on different compliance regulations that exist in one nation versus another. But they would make these small little mistakes within the messaging and
Yeah.
within, the process that people could pick up on, and they could
Like it
cue
kind of
in.
gave like a hint a
Just
little
gave you a
bit.
hint
Yeah.
of that might be, fake or erroneous. Well, now with AI, it's closing those small gaps. So now it makes it even more difficult for associates to pick up on it, which means they're going to click more.
Yeah.
And those clicks can do major damage. So the ability to train, but also figure out a way to properly train based on these changes that are happening with AI is going to be important. That right now, to me, is one of the most dangerous spaces.
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, volunteering to help low income families and children obtain the tools and resources they need to become self sufficient is a passion of yours.
Correct.
What made you want to get into that?
So I was one of those kids. Um, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up in a housing project, and my mom was the first one to leave that space. She became a nurse and then later on a doctor to push us out of there. But I never forgot. I remember being a part of enrichment services. I went to Head Start. That was my preschool. Those individuals helped get me on my path. In fact, one of the individuals from that program is what got me into math and science. Again, there was no STEM when I went to school, but
Right.
there were math and science, and those became very much focus points for me. So when I realized what you can do and how you can change somebody's life and direction by just spending time, providing resources and education. So once I got into a space that I could provide some of those things, I wanted to make sure that I gave back to the community as well.
Yeah, that's awesome because, like you said, enrichment services helped you succeed, but rather than just saying, okay, thanks, bye, you're turning around and returning the favor for the future generation. That's awesome. So if you hadn't gotten into cybersecurity, do you think that's what you would be doing, some sort of mentorship, or what would you be doing if you weren't working in cybersecurity?
I believe it will probably be something in art. One of the main reasons I'm doing my talk here is because I just really enjoy art. I don't have the skill to be an artist, but I love being in the space. I love helping young artists. I do a lot of collecting myself and, talking with emerging talent. So it might be something in art if it
Yeah.
was just passion. Don't know if it would pay the bills, but it would be fun.
In an ideal world, you'd be doing art and you'd be a massive millionaire doing
Yeah,
art. That would be wonderful.
exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Corey. I really enjoyed speaking with you. For our audience, if you know somebody who would like to be on speed data or you would like to be on speed data, visit veronis.com/speed-data. Thanks again, Corey.
Thank you very much for having me.